So, hello everyone, and welcome to AQ Adaptive Intelligence's Thinking Thursdays. Today we have an amazing guest. His name is Dr. CLINT STEELE, and he is a doctor of chiropractic, and he's been serving for quite some time as well. So he's been doing chiropractic for quite some time now, and he teaches that you can heal yourself through the power of your neurology, through the power of the human nervous system. So in order to achieve optimal human health, we need to make sure that the vertebrae in our spine are properly aligned. Otherwise, it will impede on our brain function. So he uses quite a bit of technology to verify that what he's trying to do is actually working. One of the things that he uses is beyond, x-rays and typical things that most chiropractors use. He uses a special type of biometric device called the NeuroInfiniti. And I've actually researched NeuroInfiniti a lot and even considered buying it about a year ago. I settled with the Muse, but I do like NeuroInfiniti as well. So Dr. CLINT has started many things within chiropractic, one of them being a True Chiro, which the whole point of True Chiro is to share the truth of chiropractic and changing the world's health one family at a time. That's the catchphrase, one family at a time, or one person at a time as well. He started Leading Edge Chiropractic. That's where he practices. He's really good about helping people, challenging them to transform, and he has his own 30-day challenge to transform people's health and life. So we're very like-minded in that as well. He is an avid traveler and a lover of hockey. That was also part of my childhood. I love hockey as well. And so today we're going to talk to you about how your brain stress equals disease. So we're going to talk about neurology. We're going to talk about optimizing the human nervous system. We're going to talk about optimizing your health so that you can optimize your life. Without further ado, I will be bringing to you here, now, and live for Thinking Thursdays, Dr. CLINT STEELE. Dr. CLINT, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in just delving deeper into neurology, deeper into the human mind, how to make it function better, and why that matters to everybody's life.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate
You're
the time and for the introduction. I've been a chiropractor since 1993, so 27 years I've been a chiropractor. For the first 17 years, basically saw neck and low back pain, which is what most people think chiropractic is. Unfortunately, it's wrong, and I knew better, but I couldn't figure out a way to educate that to my following. Chiropractic was about so much more than neck and low back pain. So after 17 years, I quit. I said, I'm done. I just knew that it was so much more, but I was frustrated. I had a full head of hair when I started practice. I was stressed and burnt out. So I got out. Tried to change the world in another way, performing acts of kindness. We ended up setting a goal of performing 1 million acts of kindness in 1 year. We ended up hitting 2.8 million acts of kindness in 1 year. What we did was we went out and we started here in Maine. I live in Maine. And so we partnered with McDonald's of Maine to begin with. They gave us 1,000 vouchers for free coffee at McDonald's. And so a group of us, we had about 10 of us, we went to downtown Portland, which is a city of about 60, 70,000 people, and we'd stand on the corners. And instead of holding a sign that says, need money, can you help, something like that, we would hold signs that said something like, have a great day, enjoy a coffee on us, smile, we just bought you a coffee, stuff like that. And we'd start handing these out to people. And it was crazy how many people would not look at us. They wouldn't engage with us because they thought that we were asking for something. Instead, we were giving something, right? They listened to us, it clicked, and their eyes got big, and they get a big, huge smile on their face, and they're like, wow, that's awesome, amazing, thank you so much. And so that was the start. That was the very first day we did that. And then what happened is we just had, it just kind of snowballed. We had people from all over the United States initially joining us, and then we had people from all over the world. We have people as far as Africa and Australia joining us, and they would perform acts of kindness on our behalf. And we kept tabs. We probably had more than 2.8 million, but we know for sure it was at least 2.8 million acts of kindness. And so that was an amazing year. It was in honor of my dad, he was big into performing acts of kindness when he was alive. He died when I was 25 years old. But I grew up where he would, he'd go out. Like one of the things that we used to do was, I grew up in Colorado, and so during the winters, we'd go out in the Jeep, and we would find in a snowstorm people that were stuck or off the side of the road, and we'd go out and we'd pull them out. We'd hook them up to the Jeep and and pull them out. So we were always doing the acts of kindness like that. So it was pretty cool in honor of my dad.
So yeah, I love that you do acts of kindness. I'm a big advocate of philanthropy as well. That's actually my passion in life. Like the reason why I got into healing is so that I can give back, especially to those who have nothing, right? Especially to those who don't have health. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to transition from acts of kindness to now acts of helping human beings achieve their greatest potential.
So what happened after that year finished, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? I said to myself, I still have my license. So I said, well, I'm going to get back into chiropractic. A few things happened at that time, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and get back into chiropractic. But this time, I'm going to do it by sharing the truth, what I know to be the truth of chiropractic, in that the chiropractic adjustment actually has an effect on the brain and nervous system. And so I opened up my practice again, focused on that, and my practice just exploded. I mean, it just like took off. So many people out there are looking for answers to their health issues because they know medication isn't the answer. And when I started actually explaining the truth of chiropractic, people were like, oh my gosh, that's what I need. That's what I've been looking for. But I didn't know chiropractic was about that. They thought that chiropractic was about neck and low back pain. And so that just built the practice. And that was about 7 years ago. And I've been gung-ho ever since.
Yeah, I know. I watched some of your other interviews. Basically, you got discouraged because everybody just thought it was about low back pain. That's part of the reason why I decided to distance myself from that as well. But the brain is such a beautiful thing, and there's so much research being shown that when you affect the neurology further down the line, meaning the spine, or what it should be called, instead of the spinal cord, it should be called the brainal cord, because it's still encapsulated within the same sheath, anatomically speaking, as where the brain is. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've studied basically that shows that how affecting the spine leads to changes, positive changes, all the way up to the brain, and how that can transform people's lives?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. Basically the spinal cord is just a tail from the brain. I mean, basically that's what we're talking about. What happens is when a chiropractic adjustment is done on the spine, the communication to the brain is so intense and so quick that it actually affects what's called the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Now, this is the area of the brain that allows us to determine what's dangerous and what's not dangerous. So, for example, our initial instinct with pretty much everything that happens in our life is danger, danger, danger. So our first instinct is to protect ourselves from danger. So we move into what's called a fight or flight tendency. It's the sympathetic dominant nervous system, or sympathetic side of the nervous system. Yeah, and so we move into the stress response. And then within an instant, the prefrontal cortex comes in and says, hey, wait a second, this is not dangerous. We're okay, we can relax. And so then we move into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our also known as rest and digest, or relaxation or healing part of our nervous system. But what happens is when we're stressed out, especially nowadays, right, we're all stressed to a certain extent, that limits our brain's ability, the prefrontal cortex ability, to determine whether or not we're in a dangerous situation or not. And so what happens is we end up more on the sympathetic dominant side. The stress side of our nervous system is functioning at that level, which affects our health. It sends chemicals out to the body that causes our heart rate to increase, our blood pressure to increase. It lowers our ability to reproduce. It lowers our ability for digestion. So that's the start of all these chronic diseases. In fact, if you go to Johns Hopkins did research a few years back, and they said basically 8 out of 10 visits to a doctor are because of stress-related issues that have turned into physical symptoms and physical distress and physical disease processes. We've got other experts in the field that state that 90 to 95% of all chronic disease processes are due to stress. It all comes down to stress. The brain controls everything in your entire, if you ask a fourth grader what controls everything in your entire body, they're going to come back and they're going to say the brain. The brain controls and coordinates everything in your entire body, and it was there to develop everything before you were born. If it developed everything before you were born, and now it controls and coordinates everything in your entire body, why do we get sick? It makes no sense, right? Because our brain is there to make sure that we're healthy. When we have too much stress, the brain can't do what it needs to do. It can't communicate properly, and that leads to disease process.
Yeah, and I focus a lot on optimizing the brain through many different ways, and one of my most favorite modalities is with getting chiropractic care, even on myself. So that's radically changed my life, because I used to get migraines all the time, and tried everything. It was so bad that I used to have to like pill pop, like have to take a pill all the time. Once I got into like really good, solid chiropractic care, like that changed. So like I'm a huge advocate of that, changing things up, fixing it, not through a chemical means, but through a physical means, because oftentimes it's a physical problem. So, and I know so this is getting into the 3Ts, right? So can you explain to people how the distortions happen in people's spines using the 3Ts?
The way this happens is this. We're talking about the 3Ts that chiropractic has been talking about for over 100 years now. We're talking traumatic stress. We're talking chemical stress or toxins. And then we're talking emotional stress or thoughts. So we've got toxins, thoughts, trauma. So for an example, a traumatic event or traumatic stress would be like a car accident, a fall that someone took, passing through the birth canal. You know how much stress is on the cervical spine and the neck as a baby passes through the birth canal, as a doctor has to reach in there and pull that baby out, especially if you use forceps or suction. Like that is hugely traumatic. But in addition, physical trauma also includes staring in front of a computer 8 hours a day, or these things right here that we have, staring at a phone all day with your head forward. That's physically traumatic. Not moving your body properly is physically traumatic to the brain and nervous system. That's the first stressor. The second stressor is chemical trauma. How many are taking medications? Medication is not a natural substance that the body is used to. It's actually toxic to the body. How about too much alcohol? Has anyone ever drank too much alcohol? Has anyone eaten too much processed foods? Too many GMOs, too much sugar. Like these are all chemical toxins that enter our body, that add stress to our brain and nervous system. And then the most powerful stressor is emotional stress, because this is at the subconscious level all the time. We're always having thoughts in our mind that are causing some level of stress, whether it's chemical stress, whether it's earlier you had a gentleman going through a divorce process. Like that's stressful. Losing a loved one is stressful. A relationship issue is stressful. Financial issues are stressful. These are thoughts that we have on our mind on a regular basis. And so when these stressors accumulate, then what happens, again, it affects the prefrontal cortex of our brain, and it actually shrinks that part of the brain. It shrinks the prefrontal cortex of the brain. What happens is now it can't tell the limbic system, which is the emergency part of our brain to keep us alive, which is very important. But
yeah, absolutely.
When we're trying to escape a burning building, that's super important. But when we're trying to sleep, we don't want that. But that's what we get because the prefrontal cortex can't control where you're moving. And so this starts a pattern. And this pattern usually starts in the first 7 years of life. And then what happens is those stressors then later on in life just exacerbate that pattern. And so what you need is something called a pattern interrupt, right? You need to break that pattern. And a chiropractic adjustment is one of the most effective ways of breaking that pattern.
Yeah, and I love how you bring up the whole package, because I've noticed some things in my life where it'll throw me out of alignment as well. So some of these things are things that people wouldn't even think about. So like I recently discovered that like gluten is one that does that for me. Stress that's always the obvious. And like the way you sleep can also affect that too. So there's a whole plethora of ways that your body will misalign, and it's almost like a circuit break. It'll misalign sometimes if it's just overwhelmed with stress, whether it's physical, chemical, or it's like thoughts, traumas, toxins. If those three things happen, your body will kind of circuit break, and then it'll misalign essentially. And so like, that's why I love the different modalities of body work, like chiropractic and other things that actually help bring that back into alignment. But there's none that is as specific as chiropractic. All the other ones like manipulation, all that type of stuff, that's very general and that's kind of hit or miss. I love the specificity of what this does. So tell us a little bit about what changes you've seen in people, how you've seen them before and then after using the NeuroInfiniti and measuring their brain activity. What have you seen?
You know, what you're talking about, you're talking massage therapy, you're talking manipulation, things like that. And even chiropractic adjustments to a certain extent may not be accurate for some people. So that's why it's important that we measure brainwave activity. We need to know what pattern they're in. Some people may come in, they may be totally sympathetic dominant, but on the other hand, we may have people come in that are parasympathetic dominant, believe it or not, that are sleepwalking through life. They have no idea. They've been like this since they were a kid. I did an interview with a gentleman the other day. He's a chiropractor. The first time he got adjusted, he thought, what the heck? Like he had ADD, ADHD. He was having a hard time in school. He got adjusted and he noticed a little bit of improvement, right? He noticed he could focus a little bit better. And so he's moving along this way. We did a brain scan on him using the NeuroInfiniti, and we showed that his theta levels, which are like almost between a deep sleep and a light sleep, right? The theta waves were super dominant, which means basically he's sleepwalking through life.
Literally,
like,
yeah.
The doctor that tested him said, "Did you drive here? Like, how did you drive here?" He had been getting adjusted for years, but the wrong way. Even though he was seeing some effect, he was seeing some benefits. Once we did this test and we adjusted him the right way, he said immediately he got up and he like all of a sudden like blues were like super blue, greens were like super green. He looked around and he's, oh my gosh, like I'm standing in this room and like I am totally present. He knew the difference right then. And so going back to what you said about, you know, like if you sleep wrong or if you have gluten, like he had no idea that was happening. And then after he got the right type of adjustment, now he knows. He knows when he goes from this level down to this level when he's not functioning. If he doesn't get enough sleep, if he doesn't drink enough water, if he doesn't move his body properly, he knows now how that feels, and he starts coming down, and he knows he needs to get his adjustment. He needs to get back in a sleep schedule. He needs to drink his water. And so that was a huge difference for him. And we see all kinds of things like that. We had a lady that came in with Crohn's disease. And if you're familiar with Crohn's disease, anyone listening, you know, this is a 21-year-old girl with Crohn's disease that's looking at a lifetime of pain, medication, probably surgery at some point to remove parts of her intestines, if not her whole intestine, because it's going to continue to get worse. What this did, this is an abnormal stress response to chronic stress, right? The digestive system isn't functioning like it should. It starts to degenerate and starts to decay, basically. And so we started adjusting her. Within 3 months, she's going to her doctor for regular blood checkups. Within the 3rd month, her doctor says, something's wrong. We've got to redo this test. And they redid the test. The exact same results came back, and he said, "I don't know what happened, but your Crohn's disease is gone." And he says, you know, went into remission, right? A spontaneous remission. And now this girl is like, she's running marathons. She's a bodybuilder. She never would have been able to do that stuff before. Like this is how powerful chiropractic is, and how powerful your brain is when it's functioning the right way. You have a totally different life. Totally different life.
Absolutely. And that's very true, because I remember like back when, you know, before I just, you know, discovered chiropractic in general, or even when I was a chiropractic student, before I actually got into regular care, it was like I would hit a certain plateau like around 5 p.m. and then I would just crash. That's it. My day was done. My migraine just took over and I just couldn't do anything anymore. Thank God, like, you know, after maybe like 2 years of getting regular care, I don't have that problem anymore, like at all. So I can function perfectly. I can just keep going. I can work, I can travel, you know, I can literally make my dreams come true, but it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for taking that step in my life. So anyone that's here, if you guys have never tried any sort of like healing modality that is like chiropractic, I would highly encourage you to do that. Neurohealing, which is what I do, has roots in the chiropractic philosophy. So I really love that. And it's the same point, is to optimize your body, your health, but especially your mind. A lot of the things that we teach in AQ, adaptive intelligence, is to optimize your mind. That I always hit the mind in every single way that I can, because it's made such a huge difference in my life. And I've used multiple different modalities to keep optimizing it to the next level. And I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at today if I didn't take every single step. And that's what I help teach people to do, is to keep taking that ladder all the way up. So what are some other things that you've used, maybe besides chiropractic, that have given you similar results, like have helped you optimize your mind as well?
Well, it all comes down to the chiropractic lifestyle that I call it anyway, the chiropractic lifestyle, and that is reducing the 3 T's. I mean, first you got to break that pattern. You got to cause a pattern interrupt, right? And then you got to retrain the brain. So you do that through biofeedback, through neurofeedback, and there's a 20-minute window after the adjustment. There's approximately 20 minutes that we know for sure, it may be longer, but we know for sure it's at least 20 minutes that your brain is like totally open to transforming and changing that pattern, right? And so that's where this training has to come in. Then in addition, you've got to reduce these stressors, especially once you get to that level that like you're functioning at an optimum, and you start eating gluten, or you don't drink enough water, or you have too much alcohol, and you start noticing your system coming down. It's going to be different for everyone. Okay, it's not going to be the same for everyone, but you've got to learn, how to control your mindset so that you can reduce the amount. I mean, stress is all around us forever, right? It's going to be there till the day we die. We have to learn how to use it to our advantage, and we have to learn how to deal with it, right? And so we've got to learn how to train our mind. We've got to learn how to eat properly for our brainwave activity, right? Because those patterns that we developed up until we were 7, we're always going to have tendency to go back to those patterns. Okay. Even if you're 80, 90 years old, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to have tendency to go back to those patterns. So what was that pattern to begin with? And what kind of foods should you be eating to help nourish that pattern that you should be at, so you don't go back to that old pattern? And for some people, that's, that may be a vegan diet, maybe a whole food plant-based diet. Some people, it's a high protein diet. And that's why all these diets work, but not for everyone. The bottom line is, though, we got to get off standard American diet for sure.
Right. And I actually created a whole list of things that I call brain foods. So I'm actually going to link that in the description for all of you guys. I created a whole document on what you should eat, foods that actually were shown by science, by nutritional science, to basically make you smarter. One of my favorites is blueberries. There's a whole list. And then also the things to avoid, which actually does the opposite. So I'll be linking that in the video description as well. So look out for that as well if you guys are watching on YouTube. But what are some of your favorite brain foods?
Well, I just want to preface this, and I love that you put that together. But when we're talking about brainwave activity, we're talking about these patterns. If we have someone who's in a hyperactive state, that's their normal pattern, they are not going to have the same diet as someone who's walking around in a high theta state or a high parasympathetic. Someone who's more prone to depression is going to eat more foods that are high in serotonin. They're going to help produce serotonin. So, to a certain extent, I 100% agree with you, but it can get even more fine-tuned than that if you know what your patterns are. Absolutely. Absolutely love blueberries. I love, salmon obviously is great, especially, fresh salmon, not farm raised salmon.
Yeah. For the vegans, it's chia seeds. Those are really good with omega-3s, proteins, like any kind of bean, basically.
Yeah, chia seeds. I love greens, spinach. I make a lot of stuff like that. I'm big into vegetables. I'm big into the research that should 800 grams of vegetables a day decreases your risk of all kinds of chronic disease processes. So I'm big into that.
Awesome, I love it. What's something that you would recommend everybody try at least once in their life, as far as when they finally get to that point of health, right? Because first you got to make the switch. And then when you get what you wanted, then what do you do? Like, what do you recommend people do with their health? Like, what is something that you've done that you wouldn't be able to achieve if you didn't have your health?
Enjoy your life, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
My sister turned 50 last year, so we went skydiving, which is pretty cool. That was the second time, but she was ecstatic. She loved that. I love adventure. Like, I love going. We just got back from the Virgin Islands. My sons are 27 and 20 years old. We climbed one of the highest mountains on the Virgin Islands. I was able to keep up with them the whole time. They kept turning around. You okay, Dad? You coming? I'm right here, man. What are you talking about, right? If I didn't have my health, I wouldn't have been able to do that. We got to the top of the mountain. We took a selfie, with this amazing ocean in the background with the blue water. You see the blue and green water around the Virgin Islands, and we took a selfie like that. My mom is 74 years old, and we still go on like 4 and 5 day trips together. Like, I'm still taking her around the United States. She wants to see things because she still has her health. She gets adjusted on a weekly basis. She eats properly. She walks on a regular basis. These are the things that we talk about with people. You know, when I'm doing workshops and stuff, how many people want to live to be 100? Most people don't raise their hand, and that shocked me the first couple of times. And I said, well, why not? They say, well, you know, I see how my grandparents were when they were 80 or 90, or I see how my mom is. She's 80 years old and she's losing her memory, and she has to be taken care of, and she has to, you know, she's using a walker to get around, and like, it's sad, right?
Yeah.
So heading down that path, do you want to have a healthy path, or do you want to be in a path where someone's taking care of you and you don't know what's going on in your life, and you can't remember anything and you can't enjoy your life? Like, what's the point, right?
Yeah,
so,
basically, like, do you want to retire in a nursing home, or do you want to retire on a cruise? You know, like, this is the difference. This is the difference.
One of my favorite quotes is, the goal is to die young as late as possible.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So what are some places that you've traveled to? Because I know you're a traveler. I'm traveling as well. I'm now in Mexico, which I'm getting things set up for the healing retreats that we do. What are some of your favorite destinations of choice?
Well, my wife and I love St. John. That's where we just came from. We took our kids down there. We had 11 of us went down. That was our second time being there. I haven't been overseas. We actually had a trip planned with our moms to go to Italy right when COVID hit. So obviously that's been postponed. Going there. So yeah, I've been asked to come out to Australia and speak at some conferences there. So I'm looking forward to going out there. So I've mainly just been to Mexico, Canada, and the United States, so North America. But I love Mexico. I love some places in Canada. We've been up to Toronto. I love Toronto, especially in the summertime. Now Maine is awesome in the summertime. And then wintertime, we love going down to Florida, southern Florida, you know, California. We just got back from San Francisco. If you've never been down the Pacific Coast Highway, it is amazing.
It's the best view I've ever seen in my life. That's why I love living in California. It's so hard to leave California. San
Francisco South. Like, my wife, I don't know how many times she said I had to pull over so she could take pictures. It was unbelievable, man. So
yeah. Awesome. I wonder how that's going to stack up with Italy when I go, because and one thing that you mentioned the disease. So one other thing that we should talk about too is, how does living this kind of lifestyle affect your health? How does it affect your immune system?
There was an article that came out just a few weeks ago by the medical community, believe it or not, that said the severity of COVID is based on the ability for your autonomic nervous system to function properly. Now, for those that don't know what the autonomic nervous system is, it's the part of your nervous system that tells your body and your brain whether to move to a sympathetic state or the parasympathetic state. And so the idea behind this is, when you're under stress, you move to a sympathetic dominant side. It's for danger. It's to get you through a crisis, and then
fight or flight, basically.
Fight or flight. So once that's done, then you become what's called adaptable. You rise to the occasion of the stress, and then you move down once the stress is gone, so that you're down here in your rest and relaxation and your healing part, your parasympathetic nervous system. The problem is this: when the autonomic nervous system doesn't know, and part of the autonomic nervous system is your prefrontal cortex that I talked about earlier. If it doesn't know what's dangerous and not, you can't move from a stressful situation to a non-stressful situation in your nervous system. That's when you have problems. Okay, it's called, basically it's your survival value. If you cannot adapt from stress to non-stress, then you're constantly in the stress, fight or flight area. And this is what's causing problems with COVID-19. If anyone's heard of cytokines, like a cytokine storm, basically this is what's happening, is you're in this fight or flight, you're not able to come down off that. And so when you first go into a stressful situation, you have a cytokine storm. Your body produces all these chemicals to fight off any kind of like disease, like that's not a disease, but like a chemical that's going to be into your body, right? So it like boosts it up mega amount, but it's not meant to stay there for a long period of time. It's meant to come back down and relax, and then that cytokine storm goes away. What's happening is people are going into this cytokine storm and it's not leaving. And so what happens then is, all of a sudden now the blood's not getting oxygen like it should. That's what they're dying from.
Yeah. And we have to keep in mind that our neurology controls our immune system.
Absolutely.
And when you're in a situation where you're in the stress response, the fight or flight, the sympathetic, your immune system function just crashes. It basically like just turns it off. But when you're in the rest, relax, and heal mode, parasympathetic, now all that activity heightens, and now your immune system and your brain function is optimal. So, I highly recommend, especially now with all the craziness going on, this is the time especially to get this kind of healing work done. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, what happens is this is people, I think people are under the assumption, I know this is true because people have told me, that they're healthy because they have their medication and they think their symptoms are under control. So people think they're healthy because their symptoms are under control because they're on a medication, when actually the underlying cause is still happening. And so these underlying causes can be something as simple as not sleeping properly to something as severe as cancer, are all signs that your survival value is going down, your adaptability is going down. And so it might start as something as simple as not being able to sleep properly, or some heartburn that's going on, or a little bit of high blood pressure that people think, oh, it's no big deal. What happens is that's the first sign, and gradually as that increases and increases, then that turns into more problems, heart disease, turns into more problems like cancer. And the longer that goes, the more severe the chronic disease process happens. So we hear about these people that say, well, the morbidity rate, is based on comorbidities and things like that. But the truth is this, even if people didn't have high blood pressure that they knew of, or digestive problem that they knew of, their nervous system still might not being able to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic that well. And that's what caused them. I hear the story about the 25-year-old bodybuilder that died of COVID that basically seemed healthy. But we have no idea if he was healthy because we don't know what his nervous system was doing. And so that's why it's so important, especially with the NeuroInfiniti, to be able to measure this stuff. Like, we can tell based on brainwave activity, your measurements on how well you're going to be able to do if you do get COVID. And then we can take the necessary steps to fix that as quickly as possible.
And not just if you get COVID, but to prevent yourself from even getting it in the first place, because your natural immunity can kick in and kill it before it infects you. So that's that's very important to also know. I know another thing too, relating back to how we were talking about diet. If you don't have enough healthy sugars in your blood system, in your body, you can't fight off anything, because your immune system relies on those healthy sugars to basically combat. So these diets like strict Atkins diet and like no carb diets, that can be dangerous. Maybe you'll lose a little bit of weight, but you're more likely to crash your immune system. So you got to be very careful with that. I'm not really a proponent of that. I tried that before and I kept getting sick over and over and over again. So I don't recommend no carb or low carb. I actually went the other way. High carb, low fat vegan diet has helped me the most. So if you haven't tried that, give that a try. And it not only does it give you a better immune system, and it actually clears up your mind. So brain fog goes away. You start to feed the good bacteria in your gut. And that bacteria is what produces serotonin. So you'll feel happier and your whole life will change. Actually, one of the first things I found before finding chiropractic was nutrition. And that was the first love. And then I found chiropractic. So on top of that, and then all these other things that I kept adding on top. So now it's like a whole package. So that's what I'm always excited to share with people. And that's what I do at the healing retreats. That's what I teach. So I'm sure you incorporate elements of that as well in your practice, right? Tell us a little bit about your practice.
Yeah. So basically what I do is I focus on the chiropractic adjustment, focus on the brain and nervous system. And then to add to the chiropractic adjustment, I provide home-based exercise programs, based on, again, their brain activity. If someone comes in and they're already hyperactive and they've got a overstressed immune system, I don't want to do high-intensity interval training with them. I'm going to put them on a yoga and stretching program. But if someone comes in and they're parasympathetic dominant and they're basically sleepwalking, I want to increase that. So I'm going to put them on a high-intensity interval training program. So, I base it on my assessment based on what I found in the NeuroInfiniti. It may include balance exercise, agility exercise, exercises that are important for the brain. So many people out there, they think that all they need is cardiovascular exercise or strength training, or maybe a combination of the two. The fact is, yes, they're both important. However, balance training is super important for the brain. Most people have no idea, they have no idea to do balance training. How about agility training? Simple movements from left to right without looking down at your feet build proprioceptive communication with the brain that is super important for brain health. How about stretching? Okay, stretching. There's so much research out there about stretching and how it helps benefit the brain and the nervous system. So these are types of things. And then we've got meal plans in there as well that we do with patients, again, based on their brain activity. I may put them on a whole food plant-based program. I may put them on just real food, what I call real food, real health. It just depends on what's showing up. And then we put them on mindset relaxation exercises, mindset training exercises. We make sure they're drinking enough water, which is very important. We talk about sleep, making sure they're getting enough sleep. They're on a good sleep schedule, like all this stuff. How about giving back, okay, to the community, right? If you look at blue zones, you're familiar with blue zones, right? I'm guessing most of your listeners are.
Well, maybe not all of them, but go ahead and explain it for all the people on YouTube.
Blue zones are areas in the world that have been studied where people live to be 100. They live to be like 100, 105, 110 years old, and they have no disease, right? They have no Alzheimer's. They're able to still function. They're still out working in their field. They're still congregating with their friends and neighbors at 100, 105 years old, right? And they're functioning. So these are blue zones. They're all over the world. And what they found in these blue zone areas is there's certain lifestyle traits that they follow. And one of the major ones is being social and giving back to your community and helping others. That's huge for brain health. Okay. So these are things that we incorporate into our practice.
Yeah, and that's part of what we teach as well. Is like, don't just feed your body and mind, but also feed your soul, and that's giving back is part of that, feeding your soul. And there's like an enormous benefit, not just health wise, to the meaning of your life, to be able to do that. And brain will thank you. It'll release all oxytocin and all these nice little chemicals, but you'll also be living a life worth living as well. So can you tell us more about some of the metrics that you look for? Because I'm not sure exactly, other than brainwaves, what the NeuroInfiniti measures, but I know another good one is HRV. So basically HRV, what that does is heart rate variability. It measures how quickly your heart can adapt, essentially, and how quickly it is able to adapt is how adaptive you are or how healthy you are. Do you use that in your clinic as well?
Yeah, so the NeuroInfiniti measures 7 areas. So it measures the results, the limbic system, it's called. So the limbic system is kind of like a symptom. It's not really a symptom, but it's a result of how well your brain is working. But you don't actually know what's going on with the brain. And you use HRV for that. That's one thing that you can use, and the NeuroInfiniti measures that. We also use heart rate. We use respiratory rate. We use skin conductance, and we use temperature. And then we also use EMG for the traps. So what your muscles are doing. Are they too tense, especially in the traps? Because when you're in sympathetic dominant, what happens is your shoulders raise up. So when people notice that they're too stressed, the reason you're too stressed is because your traps are bringing your shoulders up to try to protect your upper cervical spine, which is where your brain stem lives, right there, which is super important. So what it does, it's a protective measure to try to bring that up. So when people are stressed, they have tendency to do that. And so we measure that muscle activity as well on both sides. So those are all components of results of how well your body is adapting, right? It doesn't actually tell you what the brain is actually doing. So we have some guidance there to a certain extent, but again, we don't know exactly what the brain is doing yet until we actually measure the brainwave activity, and there it is. So we measure all that stuff together, and then when we go and we find what the problem is with the brainwave activity, then what we do is we use those components to then retrain the brain, okay, through biofeedback. And I think that's what you were talking about the other day with the Muse, is you can do that through proper breathing techniques, or you can use temperature, you can use skin conductance to actually measure how well you're doing. You focus your brain on changing the temperature, for example, in your fingers. Like, it's amazing the stuff that your brain can do when you set out to do certain things. And so you retrain your brain, especially right after the adjustment, those 20 minutes, because your brain is wide open into learning new things. And that's why it's so important that 20 minutes is when we do most of the retraining of the brain, so that we can retrain the brainwave activity and reset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we see the same, like when we do neurohealing, we see the same 20-minute window of like heightened super learning, right? And that's how you know it's working, essentially. And that helps you learn all the things that you maybe had missed out on. So that's what we also teach as well. Like while somebody's in that state, we'll give them something positive to be able to focus on and be like, oh, am I really applying this in my life? Like, and that's why we have all the YouTube content as well. And so what are some of the things, lessons that you've learned in, your heightened states that have helped change your life?
That the universe gives you everything you need, man. Like when I'm in my heightened state, And I put a question out to the universe, and boom, it gives me the answer, man. Whether you call it God, whether you call it the universe, whatever you call it. Like when you're in that state, it is amazing what comes to you. And so I think that's one of the most important things is, I grew up as a Christian, and one of the things we always learn is God is always with us, right? And so whether you call it God or whether you call it the universe, always there, right? It always wants what's best for you, but you've got to be open to receiving. You've got to be open to learning from it, and you've got to be open to taking it in and then using it. That's the next thing, is using it. So
absolutely,
that's probably like one of the most important things.
Absolutely, it is, and I think that's a perfect way to end our interview, because that's the reason why I got into this, evolve healing, right? It's to help reconnect you with yourself and with the higher version of yourself, right? Or the higher version of whatever's out there, right? And the perfect way to do that, we have to understand that the neurology, the brain, that is the bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world. So when you optimize that, now you get to see all the things that you had missed out on, all the things that you didn't notice, and all the meaning that is associated with being alive on this beautiful earth and sharing all your gifts and talent. So thank you so much, Clint. And I would like to transition to our group discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my shoulders aren't doing this. I always wondered why my shoulders always come up like that. I learned that today. That was huge. I always wondered why. So you taught me that. That was good. You're a wealth of knowledge. I enjoy learning from you. So I did have a question for you. You were telling a story about how a guy was getting adjustments and you came over, you did it the right way. And I'm curious, what's the difference between, because I've received chiropractic work for a long time. What's the difference between the right way and the wrong way?
Well, again, it comes down to the type of brainwave activity that you have going on, the pattern that you're in. So, for example, he was parasympathetic dominant. He was walking around in a sleepwalking state, basically. So his nervous system needed to be excited. It needed to be like, there's different types of adjustments. There's manual adjustments that are high velocity adjustments that are more powerful. And then there's low force technique adjustments that are more soft touch. It's like a pen, like on my finger, like on my skin here. That would be like a type of an adjustment. So based on the brainwave activity, we can now determine the best type of adjustment for that specific individual. So he was the wrong, although he was seeing some results from the adjustment, don't get me wrong, he was seeing some results. When he had the right type of adjustment that was specific to his brainwave pattern, the results were unbelievable.
It seems to me like you're taking this program that you're doing is taking chiropractic out of the dark ages into the modern ages. And I freaking love it. I think it's really good. It's awesome because I'm a mechanic. And for me, I diagnose before I treat. It would be stupid for someone to say, my car's not running and I go just do a tune-up. It's like, wait a minute, you got to look at what's wrong. It'd be stupid for someone to come over and say, hey, I got a flat tire and I come over and I change the windshield. That's what chiropractic's been doing, I think, a lot of times. So what you're doing is really honing in, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I've had some good success with chiropractic, and I've had some success where, okay, my neck is kinked, it's not kinked anymore. And that's been great and helpful, but I've always believed that it can do more, and that's why I've been really enjoying hanging with Gabriel. He's been working with me and doing this neurohealing for, about 6 months now. And it's been very helpful. I've seen a lot of really positive things, but there's just in my spirit, I've always felt they could be more. And I wasn't too sure why that is. And I didn't know if it was because it was me. I was being held back. It's because of Gabriel's knowledge. I don't know what it is. So what you're saying right now really resonates with something I've been feeling in my heart. So I really hope that that this becomes more evident and it becomes bigger, because not that I'm trying to do a consultation right now, but I've been feeling that I've been in this fog for about the last 6 to 8 months or so. It's been a huge, feeling like brain fog and stress, and like my joy is gone. And I don't know if it's stress. I don't know what it is. And my body's been crying out for help. Gabriel's been teaching me how to listen to my body, and it's been crying out for help in all kinds of different things, such as maybe exercise or eating different. And I don't really know how to interpret what it's asking for. So you being a doctor that can actually help interpret that would be huge.
Yeah, first off, man, thank you very much. I want to use that analogy, if you don't mind, in some of my talks, because I love that. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Secondly, yeah, if we did a NeuroInfiniti test on you, we just did a brainwave, I would be able to tell you within 15 minutes, so that's how long it takes, what pattern you're in. But
great, let's do it.
Well, it's got to be physically. You got to be here hooked up.
Oh,
So,
where are you?
Where are you?
I'm in San Francisco, Bay Area.
I'm in Maine, but I bet you
the other side. All right, I'll be there tomorrow.
Well, you want to come
With
here?
all that crypto you have, you can afford it.
Oh shoot!
I can find you a doctor in San Francisco that has a brainwave.
That would be beautiful. Well, you know, I did want to say that I really like your energy.
Yeah, right now there's about 350 instruments out worldwide right now, and we're in the process of taking that. We're just going to explode it out. We're going to have our goal is to have the majority of chiropractors be doing the NeuroInfiniti to know what's going on with the brain, so that they know exactly like you just said. So people aren't just coming in and doing a tune-up on something that needs a tire change, right? They're
exactly.
actually doing what needs to be done based on what's going on with that specific person.
Yeah, and that's what I've had a problem with the medical industry is that they pump you full of pills, see if it works. They do this and see if it works. It's like, wait a minute, I'm a mechanic. The body is a mechanical device. Why don't we figure out what the hell's going on before we treat it? Yep, I've always had a problem with that, and that's what I've loved about what Gabriel's been saying and how he's been teaching me this stuff.
Because you have a brain, you are not only a machine. You have thinking patterns that it helps or it goes against yourself. Your mind is so powerful. Believe. I know what I'm telling you.
I believe you.
What's happening, Jeff, is you're in a pattern, probably since you were 7 years old or somewhere along those lines, that just continues. And the older you get and the more stressed you get, worse that pattern gets and the more severe the symptoms get because your nervous system is starting to shut down.
Yeah.
And so once we break that pattern and get you set up on a new pattern, it's going to be like night and day.
I love what you're talking. It makes total sense. It resonates with my spirit. And that's why I've been loving Gabe, is because he's been taking me off that pattern. I went vegan for 6 months trying to find a new pattern, trying to find a new option. And my body didn't like it. Yeah, honing into the problem is what I want to do. This is magic to my ears. I want to be a part of this.
And going back to the diet, and Gabriel, I agree. I used to be like right on the same page, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Like I'm like you. I respond better to whole food, plant-based. Like thrive on that. Yeah. I've got patients that I've tried to put that on, and they don't do well at all. They do better with high protein, a lot of animal protein, especially, not bad animal protein, but I'm talking like grass-fed and that type of thing. And it all comes down to, and when I started using the NeuroInfiniti, I realized it all comes down to what's going on with their brainwave activity, what's going on with their pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll vouch for that. The last 6 months I've done veganism, and I started noticing problems in my body. There's certain things that peaked up because I was getting better nutrition, and those things I like, but not having enough protein because I wasn't eating enough beans and the stuff I needed. I've been noticing other negative things happening. So if I am going to be veganism, I need to learn how to do it properly. Gabriel, you've been telling me that I was eating a lot of stuff wrong. So, but I do think that my body is craving meat. Since I started eating it about 2 weeks ago, the brain fog's gone away, and I was getting shakes, and the shakes have gone away, and there's different things been going on. So I know there's something in between what Gabriel was talking and something what you're saying, Doctor, that's going to work for me.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm a big proponent of Dr. Michael Greger. He's a nutritionist, and he basically has combed all the medical research. And I'm a huge advocate of this guy. I met him in real life, sweetest dude ever. But like I really look up to him for a lot of the research that he's put on. Like he basically makes YouTube videos based on the research. There's people that are vegans, but they eat like just junk food, and that's like the not proper way to. I would say
that was
the better way is to say whole food, plant-based diet. Is the best way, and like he can teach you how to do that. There's tons of videos on that. I highly recommend looking into that as well. And that's actually one of the tools that we have for AQ Adaptive Intelligence. It's he actually developed an app for tracking your food consumption and like making sure that you get enough of what you actually need to get every single day. Part of that is greens and fruits. And so you want to get the whole package because, when you do go plant-based, you want to make sure that you're getting a complete diet. But I mean, also when you're eating, meat stuff, no matter how clean, people say that their meat is, you still need to make sure that you're getting vitamin B12. Doesn't matter what diet you're in. That's very important. If you don't have that, your brain's not going to work optimally. And I'm sure you say the same thing, right, Clint?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you what, the good feelings I'm having and the lightweight, it's going to be contagious here. And I feel good. So
about 3 years ago, I had what my daughter nicknamed a health scare, meaning my heart stopped for about half a minute. I ended up in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. But previous to that, or the previous month, I was under a lot of stress. I was always a very stressful person. Things happened 3 months before that really put me on the edge, up to the point where in like a 4-day period, I would only sleep maybe 2 hours a day. One night I didn't go to sleep because I was so concerned with things. Next thing I know, I'm in a hospital bed.
And he's type A personality.
Yeah. When I got out of the hospital, I went to all the specialists in town. They couldn't figure it out. I went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota because they were the best for endocrinology and neurology. For my surprise, when I got there, the neurologist told me that he was also from Argentina. What a coincidence. I was born in Argentina. And he told me, when I see a list of problems that is this long, all these diagnostics that are like, that go everywhere. And I see a person that looks okay. This was an older guy. He was like maybe 76 and he was still practicing. He said, in most cases, they are healthy. It's just that you are creating the problem. You are overloading your brain. And you are not allowing your normal brain functions to take care of your body. So you are causing the problem. As soon as you relax, if you manage how to come out of that fight or flight mode into a more relaxed state, and you can achieve that through techniques. You can exercise, you can do yoga, you can pray, you can do whatever you want, but you have to come out of that state. I say, well, very interesting what he said, but I'm not. I start to get chiropractic care. I got chiropractic care for several years. And I changed like 5 different doctors because initially one, will have an approach. It will help a little bit. But, after a while, I saw that I needed something else. So I changed from one to another one to another one. And one thing was always consistent with me. C2 is out. They will adjust C2. C2 is out. I go like, man, we keep adjusting C2. Why doesn't it stay? So I went to, there are different philosophies in the chiropractic world. So one of the last ones that I attended was network.
Hi, I'm Julie Henderson. I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona. Am I supposed to say a little something or just that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So like, what's your healing journey been? We're talking about chiropractic. I don't know if you've ever had chiropractic done on you before. What's your experience been?
I love chiropractors. I have a long healing journey, but I'll try to sum it up. I was married to a DO who did a little bit of manipulation but didn't love it, but his friends did. And I had RA and I overcame it by doing different modalities, lifestyle, diet, all kinds of things. My latest journey is I'm looking into frequency and energy work because diet and lifestyle and all that, like it's great. You have to start there, but I want to take it higher.
There you go. You're in the right place. You're definitely in the right place for that.
I've worked with other patients. I've worked inside of medical clinics alongside doctors. So doctors would allow me to actually adjust like thyroid medication. I've had some pretty unique opportunities. So I'm just looking for the next thing.
Yeah, perfect. You're in the right place. How has your life changed since you started getting chiropractic care? Because that's what we're talking about specifically today is how you can affect your neurology, how you can affect your brain. And one of those tools is chiropractic.
Well, I started to get what I thought, I know it was like EMF sickness. I just moved to Scottsdale about 2.5 years ago. And being in the industry, I knew all this was coming down the pike, but I thought it was farther ahead. I'm in an advocacy group working with the state and city level to try and cap and turn it down and find and where it's an uphill battle. But anyways, one of the chiropractors in my group sent me to a female chiropractor and she did something, maybe you guys can help me. She says like, think of the number 9 and love. And then I'm not sure what she's doing because my face is down. Does anybody, do you know what I'm talking about?
She might be doing something that most chiropractors use in this. That's called cortical distraction. She's basically distracting you before she does her adjustment. So that's probably what it was.
Do like any cracking. Sorry for that.
Okay.
It's very gentle. I don't know, but it has to always have. She has a number, and then she'll get an impression like talking about jobs. She's like, I'm feeling disgust, and then she'll do a very slight, gentle adjustment, and then say, does that feel better? And
right. So that's called a light force technique within chiropractic because there's like the ones where they crack, but then there's also the ones that don't crack. So it sounds like she's more like light force, which is what I prefer getting done on myself as well. But yeah, go on.
I'm a good cracker, everyone says, because I just kind of like grew up with it. I trust it. But I thought, can I learn this myself? I know I need to go to somebody else, but what can I learn that I can do at home because I'm constantly going in and then keep getting readjusted, and it's a lot of money. If I had the money, I would just go in and repair.
Well, like after a certain point, like your body can learn how to do it on its own. So that's more of what the light force techniques look to do. Versus like the ones that are more of like the cracking, they're like, okay, well, it's like the difference between giving you a ride somewhere, which is like the cracking, versus like teaching you how to ride a bike, which is more the softer techniques. That's how, yeah. But you gotta like do it enough to learn either way. So that's why you have to keep going back in, is because you're teaching your neurology how to fix itself, essentially. Dr. Clint, would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, basically what's happening is your brain waves, your frequencies are in a pattern that are causing problems with your nervous system. And so the adjustment is actually what's called a pattern interrupt. It interrupts that pattern so that you can create a new pattern. Problem is this, that old pattern always wants to come back. That old pattern was created, research shows, between probably the age of 1 and 7. And so it's been with you your whole life. As you get more stressors on your brain and nervous system, it has tendency to make that pattern worse and worse. The reason for regular adjustments is because number one is the pattern interrupt, and then as you get your adjustment, you start to recreate that new pattern. Any additional stressors in your life that come up, which we all have, right, for the rest of our lives, tend to move you back towards that old pattern. So that's why it's important to get regular adjustments. But there are some things you can do on your own, like you talked about, things like diet, things like making sure you're getting enough sleep, enough water intake, mind relaxation techniques, meditation. These are all things that help you retrain your mind so that you're less likely to go back to those old patterns. But there's always tendency to do that. And so that's one of the reasons regular chiropractic adjustments are so important.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm doing a ton of things. I'm doing something called FLFE. I just started it. If you get like a free 15 days, they can cover your phone where it's putting off a frequency, and you can boost it, and then they can cover your space of your house. It's not very expensive.
Oh, are you talking about like the Rife machines? Like those?
It's not Rife. Everybody thinks that.
Oh, interesting.
I'll send you all the link. It's called FLFE. Now I'm going to forget if it's org.com.
Just send it to me.
It's not very expensive. I also have had a lot of treatment with Healy, and I wanted to buy one.
We literally just did a talk on a girl that sells a Healy.
I think
her name's
saw
Savannah.
that one.
Yeah.
Savannah. Mm-hmm. I will buy one. That definitely works. And I played around. A chiropractor wanted me to sell a machine that was a little bit of an older school frequency machine. And this kid and I played around with it for 2 weeks. That thing was amazing. They wanted me to cross over like the MDDO, and I just didn't know if they would buy it yet. Right, yeah. So I'm hoping people get more disgusted with Western medicine.
Right, exactly.
See what a laughing stock they look like right now. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, and rise up, all of you guys, and all the other types of healers, and
that's why I started AQ, because like it's not just for lay people to learn, but it's also for healers to come together and for us to talk about these things, right? And to share, like, it's like, what's worked for you? What's worked for you? Oh, that's awesome. Let's put them together and let's make a healing retreat and do it for everybody that shows up. And then we're all healing, right? And there's like so much that goes into it. Yeah. And that's actually why I'm out here in Mexico. I had mentioned before. So I'm actually finding I love Mexico too. And, you know, I even found like a shaman here close by. So like the last day is going to be, we're all going to go to the shaman's temple. And like, we're going to get to experience like some of the tribal healing that used to go on thousands of years ago that we've lost sight of. And that is powerful unto itself. So like.
I so wish I was there, because I'm so needing that right now.
Right. You will. You'll be here soon.
Yeah,
You'll be here soon. I can feel it.
Yep. I'm ready. I'm just sick and tired of all like the old tools I'm using, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Ready to upgrade yourself and your life. I love it.
I had a major upgrade March 12th. So
perfect. I love that. I love that.
I'm excited. So am I the only non-chiropractor?
No. Actually, Clint is the only chiropractor here. Everybody else is not a chiropractor.
I can speak the language usually, though.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Part of my philosophy is, you know, based on that as well. So
like learning, immersing yourself in it until it's yours.
Exactly. Clint, are there any other like non-chiropractic techniques that you're a big advocate of? Because I know you mentioned meditation and yoga. What else are you into?
Yeah, I love, one of the things that I do, I have a Reiki therapist that comes in and does energy work on me. Reflexology is super huge for me. I think every body is different. So I think different people respond to different things better. I love, obviously, massage, yoga, meditation. Those are some of the things that work really well for me.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, everyone's different, but those are definitely some great things. Acupuncture, obviously.
I haven't tried that one yet. I need to do that. I haven't tried acupuncture. I I don't like needles. It's probably
No, they're teeny tiny. Have you guys heard of bars? BARS, I think it is.
I've heard it, but I don't know what it is. What is it?
I don't know how to explain it, but she's saying, like, we've been lied to our whole lives, and we have to kind of defrag you, and so that your consciousness like speaks your truth to you. So I did that like 2 weeks ago. Crazy stuff. Like, I wasn't making it up. It was streaming in at this consistent rate, and I didn't audibly hear it. It was pronounced. So yeah.
Interesting. I need to check that out, because like part of what I say too is, neurohealing is like defragging your mind. It's like, when's the last time you defragged your computer? When's the last time you upgraded your computer's operating system? Well, you can do the same thing with your own neurology. But people just aren't aware of that. So like, that's why I'm bringing awareness to that. Yeah.
I was saying, things were saying like, you've always been okay, and you have all the gifts that you need. A lot of it I don't remember, but she says you actually do remember. It's just in your subconscious.
Yeah. Well, we were actually talking about the subconscious mind and like how chiropractic affects the subconscious mind. Clint, have you had any patients where like it's been pretty obvious, like something changed in their subconscious mind, but you could pick up on it through the chiropractic work that you do?
I remember one lady that came in. She was in the hospital 14 days. They could not figure out what was wrong with her. Her son had died just months before. I think she had lost her business, like all this unbelievable stress. And so she went to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. She had this unbelievable pain. And when she came in, I remember laying my hands on her to get ready to adjust her. And I felt like I could feel like her pain like move through my body. It's the only time I've ever felt it. And it blew my mind. I adjusted her one time. She had this pain for like months. And 14 days in the hospital, nothing changed. One adjustment, the next day, she said she's 95% better.
Wow.
But how were you? Because you said you felt the pain?
Yeah, I could feel the pain when I put my hands on her. I mean, it was fine. I tend to be an introvert, so I tend to I lose my energy as the day goes on. So I may have like at the end of that day remember thinking like I wasn't feeling very well, but usually by the next day I get a good night's sleep and I'm good to go. But
I've experienced that too with neurohealing. Like, memories will just like flash in my mind. I'm like, where did that come from? Like something that happened like years ago, or like. But it usually relates to something that's going on in their body, so that's why I can like kind of like pick up on that. But like things that like, for example, one time I was actually learning how to do a particular technique. You're supposed to like lay your hands on somebody, right? So you lay your hands on them, and then like you check their feet. So when I checked her feet, I like felt like this particular emotion. It was like a very sad emotion, and like I started to feel it in my body, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. This isn't my energy, right? This isn't mine. But later on, she had been adjusted by a chiropractor that was in the room, and then she just started crying. And he extended like a tissue to like have her clean her tears, but he actually encouraged her to open up to the group. And she had said something along the lines of her grandma had just recently died, and holding on to all that baggage until that moment, and then she finally just let it all go. So it's like there's things that the body will tell you, but that the person themselves that's feeling that thing will not be conscious of. It's stored in the subconscious mind. But healers are very adept at picking that up.
Well, that's what like 90 to 95% of our lives are what's going on is in the subconscious mind. And so by the time we have symptoms, it's been going on in the subconscious mind for probably months or years before we even have the symptoms. And so that's why it's so important to be able to understand that and know, I don't know if you follow Louise Hay's work at all, she's passed, but if you ever look at Louise Hay, I've been using a lot of her work for the last 15, 20 years in my practice. And so someone comes in with hip pain and there's no physical trauma. I'm like, first thing that I go to is, okay, what's going on? Where do you feel stuck? What's going on? That you're worried about the next step in your life that I know is causing their hip pain. Right. And so you start to, I don't know if it's like subconscious communication or if it's just the fact that I have some experience with it and I've seen a lot of it, so I have an idea where it's coming from, but it still is powerful. It's powerful stuff.
Crazy.
It is.
Yeah, the pain body. I'm gonna ruin my melatonin. Can you not see me? Okay.
I do caregiving. Usually I look for solutions to the problems that I encounter when I help people. Some of the things I've found, although it's not necessarily recommended for everyone, but intermittent fasting is supposed to be a key to rejuvenate your body, because what happens is your body goes into autophagy. Autophagy is when your body actually consumes itself. You have an immune system that is not up to par. It's got maybe parts of it are got issues. Autophagy will remove those problematic conditions, and then your body will regenerate with fresh material that's more effective at fighting disease and building your body into a healthy condition. And also some things that are really beneficial are the things that you eat. Like some mushrooms are really beneficial for cognitive regeneration.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of mushrooms. I love them.
Me too.
All of them.
And then there's also a lot of the herbalism can be very effective.
Yep.
There's a huge tradition in China. They've used herbal medications for thousands of years there, and
absolutely.
And traditional medicine, they don't even talk about that kind of stuff, which is crime.
Yeah, and it should be a crime, because the way they develop their drugs is they'll take those plants and they're like, all right, something in this works. Let's isolate the compound in the plant that works, and then now let's tweak it just a little bit so we can slap a patent on it and then charge you up the butt. Just to have what you could have had if you just knew the right plant, right? So I'm a huge advocate of plant medicine as well.
Meditation is really key.
Most of us don't meditate as long as we should.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
And then there's something kind of interesting called the third eye. There's ways to open your third eye.
Yeah, basically you're decalcifying your pineal gland, which is a gland located in the center of your brain. And there's ways to do that, but light is a good way to do that. With light.
What color light, or what type of light are you using?
Well, there's lots of different methods, and that's a whole talk unto itself. But you can actually just, as the sun is setting, just close your eyes and look in that direction, and then your brain will basically pick up on those photons. But then also clean water is another thing. You don't want fluoride in your water.
Right.
And also it goes back to the diet as well, because when you have a good diet, you're detoxing all that stuff too. But then that actually helps. This is a whole nother topic that I do need to delve into. When you do cleanse your pineal gland, now you're able to produce more serotonin in your brain. And then that serotonin with the light combination will convert into a chemical called DMT, which is, there's lots of documentaries on it, called the spirit molecule. DMT allows you to have those experiences that are considered more spiritual, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually the same chemical that is present in your brain when you dream. So that's super important, not just for having a healthy mind, having a healthy brain, your entire neurology, but the rest of your body as well. And then even being able to be in tune with the higher frequencies or what will as well. So that's a good suggestion, Les. I like that.
Thank you.
That was super good.
You perceive the world with your brain.
Yes.
But what the world is really like is something that we don't understand from perception, because what happens is your eyes pick up light waves from the environment, but then the brain converts those light waves into hallucinations of reality. So you're not actually perceiving what's in your world. You're hallucinating what's in your world.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes back to one of our most original talks, which is, are we living in a simulation, or is reality, what is reality, right? So we have those videos available too for anybody that's listening. But that's actually another good point that I would love to cover more in the future, is the effects of this DMT and how our neurology creates this hologram that we think is real. So whether you are aware of it or not, you're living in some sort of simulation. We don't know what that is, but it's all generated, at least as far as we know, at least by your own neurology, which is a whole nother reason why getting good chiropractic care, doing all these other things is important, because you want your brain to be able to perceive accurately. Because when your brain can perceive accurately, you'll get better results in life. If your brain cannot perceive accurately, you're going to go down in the downward spiral. But if it can do the right thing as it was designed to do, your life will start to go in the opposite direction, in an upward spiral. So that's the intent of AQ Adaptive Intelligence, is to get people on the upward spiral that were once in the downward spiral. Yeah. So Clint, would you like to add to that? Because I know that was a big one.
Yeah, that's huge. That's one of the things. I think that's one of the things that is not talked about enough when it comes to chiropractic, is just allowing the prefrontal cortex and parts of your brain to understand your surroundings. and how you respond to those surroundings creates your life. That's why it's so important that your brain is functioning at its optimal level. Not just for body function, but more importantly for what's going on around you, how you perceive things, how you take things in, how you react to things. I remember one female that I had coming in. She was probably 30 years old. Was severe chronic pain. She could barely get to work. Was living this life. Wonderful young lady. Had a great personality. Once I started adjusting her, she calls me one day, like basically in tears, saying, "I can't believe that I'm allowing my mom to speak to me the way that she speaks to me." She says, "It's the same way that's been going on for years, but I never realized it until I started getting adjusted." And so one of the things that we do is when we do this type of work, chiropractic work that I do, we work with a lot of counselors and psychologists. A lot of this stuff needs to be dealt with, because if it's not dealt with and this pattern isn't broken, those old patterns are going to come back.
Yes.
Those are some of the things, Gabrielle, you talked about getting adjusted or patients getting body work done and breaking down in tears. Like, that happens on a regular basis as well. They've got all this stuff built in, and as soon as you allow them to express it, like, it just comes flooding out, right? And so that creates a lot of problem. But
yeah, it definitely opens up the floodgates, but it's better to do that, because then once you're able to deal with whatever's going on in your neurology that's unresolved, and you can start to heal from it, and then your body will greatly thank you for it, and then you'll be able to, again, think clearer, make better decisions, have a better life, and even reach those elevated states of consciousness, and what they call it in more Eastern religions, like a state of enlightenment. It's actually a neurological phenomenon, and it's been studied, and there's lots of ways to access that. But it's super important. Like, if you've ever taken, say for example, like something like ayahuasca, what all ayahuasca is a lot of DMT all at one time. But it's really allowing your brain to have the right chemistry to work with what it has, to find solutions, to find more creative ways of expressing itself, and of just making the world a better place. So there's lots of different ways to reach this, but to have the most optimal experience, having a proper neurological alignment is super important. And I will always advocate that until the day I die. It's just true. And thank you so much, Clint, for going into the more nitty gritty, the more specifics of why that is the case.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate the time. I'm on the East Coast though, so I'm gonna take off here in a couple minutes, man, unless anyone has any questions or anything.
Anybody have any last minute questions?
Actually, I do have a question for you, Clint, if I may. Do you have a contact phone number that I can have?
Yeah, 207-240-4908.
08. Is that a cell phone or a landline? Okay, cool. I'll reach out to you here in a moment.
Cool. And
right.
And do you have a website that anybody interested in learning more about what you do? Is there a website you would recommend to them check out?
You can go to truechiro.org, truechiro.org. That's our public-facing website. We also have a private Facebook or private website for just chiropractors as well. We run programs for chiropractors, and then we educate the public as well. So
perfect. And have you written any books as well that people can read?
Not yet, but I'm working on it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Same. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Clint, and thank you everyone else for coming. And I appreciate you all. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you on the next one.
The
next one's good.
Clint, thank you so much. I really appreciate you helping everybody out.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I missed
Thank
the
you, guys.
beginning. What's the next one?
The next one is actually going to be a gentleman who literally died and was dead for 6 hours straight, and he actually had an experience where he went into a whole nother realm. So he basically died and went to heaven.
I have
so we'll get to. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I think like 6 hours is probably the longest time I've ever heard anyone being dead for, and then being able to come back and tell.
He definitely beat me. Mine was almost 30 seconds. I had a little.
There you go.
But time is kind of. I don't know if we know that we classify death by what, like, right? No heartbeat, breath. But is that really when you die? Right? Maybe it's a continuum.
Right. Or maybe we never die. Who knows? There's something weird going on, right? Yeah. Because if you're brain dead, or if your heart stops beating, then how are you still able to have consciousness? Exactly. Right? That's what we're going to dive into next time. So again, thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to the next time. Cool. See y'all.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Dave. What a good talk tonight. This was really good, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Really cool. Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad that everything worked out well for you.